3 dead kids at the hands of their own mother. Everyone's blaming postpartum depression, and nobody's talking about the bigger mental health crisis hiding in plain sight. Real paramedics, real firefighters, real police officers, and a real grieving husband are left to pick up the pieces of this aftermath. And yet we have streets being lined with women. We have a social media contagion going on where women are filming themselves in fits of emotional outburst and performative rage and abusing their children. Not one person has rallied in defense of the husband. Not one person has rallied in defense of the aforementioned first responders and the nightmares that are going to follow them home through this. I have seen dead kids. I know exactly what seeing a dead body of a tiny human looks like and what it feels like. My name is Matthew. I worked as a paramedic and veteran for almost 17 years. This is an example of what I'm talking about by the social media contagion of really, really gross, deplorable human beings. This person here has this thing, a video she posted to TikTok, pretending crying. "Me too, Lindsay," is what it says. Now, this comment here says everything I need to say. Lindsay Clancy did not lose it. She waited until her husband left, then strangled her 3 children with exercise bands. Cora was 5. Dawson was 3. Caitlin was 8 months old. Women holding their own living babies on camera and saying, "Me too, Lindsay," are not describing exhaustion. They're announcing that they see themselves in a woman who murdered their kids. And that couldn't be any more accurate. And it's disgusting. And it's scary. It's horrifically scary. Postpartum depression affects approximately 10 to 20% of women in the United States and in Canada. That makes it the most common affliction for women who have just given birth. The most common medical affliction. Where am I going with that? Where I'm going with that is there are millions and millions and millions of women who have given birth and struggled through the unfathomable turmoil of postpartum depression without killing their kids. Not 1 kid, not 2 kids, not 3 kids. Not 1 kid has been killed by millions upon millions upon millions of women that suffer through postpartum depression. I'm not here as a man to tell you that postpartum depression is not real. I'm here as a former paramedic to tell you I absolutely know that it's real. And I absolutely know on a conceptual level and an informative level that it's absolute hell, torture, nightmare. And yeah, there can be a discussion had about institutional failures toward Lindsay. That's fine. That's one thing. But if you look through history, we have, especially in modernity, we have a constant slide right now in society where we are continuing to prop up the monsters and the villains of the story as opposed to anything else. The big pushback for all these women lining the streets is mental health. That Lindsay's mental health was failed, that people failed her. Not one of those women have come out and said, "I really hope the husband isn't going to be failed as well." No, they're coming out with fantastical scenarios about why the husband is guilty, that he did it, even though the court system, the confessions and everything else have all come out and said, "Leah Lindsay 100% unequivocally did this." Nobody's come out and talked about the first responders that I mentioned at the beginning of this episode. The police officers and the firefighters and the paramedics that had to go in and witness this horrific scene of 3 dead children of varying ages. Seeing a dead child is not an easy sight to see. That was one of the biggest stressors within the paramedic field, within working within that field, because all of our equipment, I know we have pediatric equipment and things like that, but the equipment, it doesn't quite fit right. So visually, when you look at this child that's on your stretcher, there's an oddity that's really hard to grapple with. And there are a host of people now who are going to have to live with these nightmares because of what Lindsay did, because of Lindsay's actions. Listen, just because somebody's pain is understandable doesn't mean that their actions are excusable. Right? We can explain things through medical severity, for sure. I actually wrote something earlier today where And I want to bring it up to you because I can't remember the exact wording that I used today, but I want to bring it up because I did write about this earlier, and it was just some thoughts I had in the morning. And I said, when a culture can no longer distinguish between the tragedy of severe medical crisis and the sheer horror of its violent aftermath, the moral baseline has shattered. What makes it a loss of morality rather than just a heated debate is the deliberate substitution of empathy for ideology. We have all these people out here, all these women out here lining the streets, sitting there chanting Lindsay's name as though they're a freaking cult. They're all wearing pink shirts and they're all saying me too. And they're like, it could have been me. It could have been my neighbor. It could be somebody I know. It also couldn't have been because millions of women don't do it. Millions of women have the ability and the absolute fortitude to go through the absolute laborious task of motherhood and the incomprehensible task of postpartum depression. And there's nobody here that I've heard that says it's easy. Life isn't easy. Medical conditions such as postpartum depression is not easy. But swapping out empathy for ideology is insane. We have 3 dead children and a dismantled family, and all the collateral damage for an ideological talking point. Severe illness explains the tragedy. It does not absolve the atrocity. We have women here saying that she should not go to jail, that she shouldn't go to jail because the system failed her, because the husband did it. All these insanely crazy things. And, you know, I worked in Crazy Town for a long time. As a paramedic, that's your bread and butter is Crazy Town. I worked in Crazy Town for a long time. And I got to tell you, in modern times, in contemporary times, there has been this weird moral shift. We saw it in the George Floyd incident. Now you can have discussions about police tactics, use of force, and et cetera. But one of the big things that a lot of people never talk about is there was an ambulance called the moment that George Floyd started exhibiting medical distress. The ambulance was staged, meaning that they had to park a ways away because there was a mass mob of people around, and the ambulance could not safely arrive on scene to do their job. So I believe the last time I read it was 17 minutes or something like that they were staged for until they finally arrived on scene. And that whole thing was crazy. Watching they literally just picked him up, threw him on the stretcher and took off, which is kind of indicative of the kind of situation that they were in, but it's also no protocols that I've ever seen. So the whole thing there was crazy. But what I'm saying is they put statues of George Floyd. They erected statues of this guy. George Floyd is not a martyr. George Floyd was not a hero. George Floyd was a tragedy. George Floyd died being a less than stellar member of society. He inflicted damage to people. He was not a saint. Okay. This isn't a Sunday school teacher who befell a tragedy. No, this was life meeting up with consequence and resulting in death. And that's all it really was. And, you know, we saw a mass gathering of people that rioted, that looted, that destroyed property, that castigated the police. And it led to the body cam movement, which is probably the best thing that has ever happened because it really shows that the narrative doesn't match the reality of what's actually happening. The same is true in this case here. The reality isn't matching what's happening online. We have women like this creature right here who is sitting there like, I don't know, doing a weird facsimile of what she thinks Lindsay went through, or, you know, whatever. The thing you have to remember about this is we're not just witnessing a person here going through something. They set their phone up just the same as I set my camera up, the same as I turn the light on behind me and I turn the key light on over here. I set this up so that I could talk to you and perform the things that I want to say. This is a performance. This is not reality. This is not, this here is fake crying. They set the camera up and take deep breaths. No, that's retarded. That is mental illness on display. And I don't, these women should have their kids taken away. They should have their kids. This is a child protective services matter all day long. Take these kids away, or at least do an investigation, because this is horrifically dangerous, and there should be no reason for it. There really shouldn't. I don't understand how. I mean, these are the kids, by the way. These are the kids. That is insane. That is insane. And yeah, I agree with this thing too. It's easy to say that Clancy is pure evil. Look, I'm not here to castigate Lindsay Clancy in terms of trying to judge her as evil or not. Postpartum depression, if it was documented, that's a real affliction. Yeah, it can have some real dire consequence. But, you know, to go through the act of strangling 3 of those kids of varying ages with an exercise band, and then throwing yourself off the 2nd floor window, thusly paralyzing yourself. There's probably other things at play in my view. I've dealt with women that have postpartum depression. I have picked up women who were suicidal and had attempted suicide with postpartum depression. It's a real thing. It's a really horrific condition. It is, however, the most common affliction that women face after giving birth in North America, the most common, which means that there are, like I said, millions and millions of women who don't kill their kids. They navigate the perplexities of the condition, and they push forward, and they have a better mental fortitude to be able to handle these things, and it doesn't lead to murder. You can't give it an excuse. You can't give this kind of atrocity an excuse because social media exists and you get to make fancy little videos out of it. It boggles my brain that we're in this place. We saw it, and we've seen it in the past too with Ted Bundy. Ted Bundy did horrific things to women, and he had a fanfare of women, liberal white women mostly, that idolized him and fantasized and call him so dreamy and handsome. It is insane to me that society can befall to that level of decay. It doesn't make sense to me. I've seen people do horrific things to one another. I've seen the uglier side of life, as almost every first responder has. Working in a big city or a small town, you see the underbelly. You exist within the underbelly. That is your bread and butter, your stock and trade. And I've seen the very 2 things that are playing out on this right now, and that's why I wanted to talk about it. Not because I want to get into politics, but because I have seen dead youth. I have held dead youth. I've picked it up in my hands and worked on it on the way to. And I have also dealt with women who have postpartum depression, and they have given me a tremendous amount of insight into the things that they face, into the things that they think, into the things that they feel. And my heart goes out to them. It is such an incomprehensible condition when it comes to thinking about as a man, because we don't get that. There's conditions that men have that women don't get, and you can have those debates all day long. We can admit, and we can have the intellectually honest discussion that postpartum depression can lead to some really dire things. But we can also do so without giving the excuse for murdering 3 completely innocent children. And we could do so without calling Lindsay pure evil. It's easy to do that because of what's played out here. Lindsay may not have been an evil person per se. Her actions were evil. Her actions were terrible. Her actions were unforgivable. And it's sad to see women lining the streets. I don't know if I can find a picture. Yeah, these are images here of these women. Like, look, this is insane. That's crazy to me. That is absolute crazy town. Like, I don't understand here. Like, absolute nutty town. Like, what is this? Lining, and they bring kids too. That's one of the worst parts. They bring kids to this and try to, like, yeah, you know, like this could be supporters gather outside the courthouse here. I don't know if I can actually watch this or not, but we'll see if we can load it up. Restricted video. Made the decision, restricted. Not available in my country. Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. Let's see if we can watch this here, maybe. Restrict the video. I mean, fair. Maybe I don't want to see that stuff anyway. Anyway, that right there, the restricted, the fact that it's restricted, just about a video about women supporting this. They made the conscious decision to restrict it in my country. That alone right there should tell you everything you need to know about this atrocity. It is insane. It is incomprehensible to me to think about what a scene like that would have been like and what it would be like to have to go back to work again 12 hours afterwards. This is the reality that first responders face every single day. And this is why it is so imperative to talk about mental health and getting first responders the mental health that they need and deserve, because this is insane. That kind of call and the fact that society is pontificating about the very wrong things. Like, yeah, the system failed Lindsay, but fuck the guy, fuck him, fuck the husband. He just lost 3 kids and a wife. He's a dickhead. Let's just say he did it. I saw a video of this woman bawling her eyes out because apparently the husband threw out a lot of the kids' clothing and blankets and stuff because it was too painful to have in the house and to look at. Likely. But he's a monster because he did that, because he took away the mom's ability to ever look at those things again. The mom snuffed out the life of 3 kids, and they're talking about how bad the dad is for throwing out a blanket. Absolute crazy town. I don't know. Let me know down in the comments what you think. I personally just think this is absolute depravity at its worst.